This is Civics, Chapter 5, Section 2, How Congress is Organized. So, in the House of Representatives and the Senate, there's a majority party and there's a minority party. So the majority party is a political party in either house that has the most members in it. It could be there's a majority party for the House, there's a majority party for the Senate. So, for example, if the Republicans have 55 senators and the Democrats have 45 senators, the Republican Party is the majority party. The minority party is the party with the least amount of members. So, if it was the House of Representatives, if the Democrats had 300 members in the House and the Republicans had 135, the Republicans would be the minority party. The Article 1 of the Constitution states that there must be a presiding officer that oversees the House of Representatives. That presiding officer is the Speaker of the House. What they do is that they oversee all functions of the House of Representatives. This is actually a very powerful position in government. So the majority party of the House of Representatives choose who they want the Speaker of their House to be. So whoever has the most seats or the most representatives of a party, they get to vote amongst themselves in that political party of who they want their Speaker of the House to be. So right now, the Democrats are the majority party in the House of Representatives, and they chose Nancy Pelosi to be the Speaker of the House. She's a representative from California, and this is actually the second time she has been Speaker of the House. So like I said, the Speaker of the House is a very powerful position, and some of the Speaker's powers include they decide who speaks in the House of Representatives. When Congress is in session, when the House meets, they preside over the whole entire meeting, and they decide who speaks. They decide what order of topics will be discussed in the House. So they meet they meet at the beginning of the day. They decide what order each topic will be discussed in. It appoints members to committees, and we'll talk about committees later on in the lesson. Has great influence on what bills will be passed in the House. Like we should remember, a bill is a proposed law, and the Speaker of the House is also second in line from the presidency after the vice president. Meaning, there's the president, there's the vice president, and then the next in line is the Speaker of the House. That means if the president and vice president die, then the Speaker of the House becomes president. Very powerful position. Leadership in the Senate. Also in Article 1 of the Constitution, all about the legislative branch, it does discuss that the Vice President of the United States is the President of the Senate. It's kind of confusing, but it makes sense. So, unlike the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate is not a very powerful position. Pretty much the only thing that the President of the Senate does is to vote to break ties. That's the only time the President of the Senate votes. So if 50 senators vote to pass a bill, 50 senators do not, the President of the Senate breaks the tie, which is the Vice President of the United States. So the current Vice President of the United States is Mike Pence, therefore he is the President of the Senate. So Mike Pence has a lot to do. The Vice President of the United States has a lot more jobs to do than just be the President of the Senate. He can't make it to every single meeting. So there needs to be someone there all the time to preside over the Senate. And that's the President pro tempore. They're usually just called the President pro tem. And they preside over the Senate when the Vice President is not there. And the entire Senate votes on who the President pro tem will be. Obviously, the majority party is going to vote for someone of their same political party. Current President Pro Tem of the Senate is Republican Chuck Grassley from Iowa. The President Pro Tem is also third in line behind the Speaker of the House for the presidency. So it goes President, Vice President, Speaker of the House, President Pro Tem. Both the majority and minority parties in the House and Senate floor have leaders. So these are called floor leaders. These are representatives or senators. So you have the Speaker and the President Pro Tem kind of are the leader, the main leaders, but then there's leaders underneath them. They're just called floor leaders, and they're chief officers of the minority and majority party. They guide bill through Congress. They ensure that their political party bills keep moving through the House and Senate. So the other representatives or senators look for them to guidance. They're usually senior members of the House or Senate. The majority floor leader is the leader of the political party with the most members, and then the minority floor party is the leader of the political party, is the floor leader of the political party with the least amount of members. Now, the thing about these floor leaders is that they are supposed to work together to come to compromises to pass bills. The current floor leaders that we have, so in the House of Representatives, his name is Steny Hoyer. He's a Democrat. Like I said before, the Democrats are the majority party in the House of Representatives right now. Then there's the minority floor leader, who's a Republican, Kevin McCarthy. And then in the Senate, the Republicans have a majority in the Senate. So the majority floor leader is Mitch McConnell. He's been in the Senate a lot. You'll hear him in the news. He's very powerful in the Senate. Like I said, floor leader is an important position, and he's a Republican senator from Kentucky. And then the minority floor leader, Chuck Schumer or Charles Schumer, he's a Democrat from New York. You'll hear him in the news. So it's really up to these two guys in the Senate to work together to get these bills passed. So there's also other leaders and other titles in the House and Senate. There's party whips, and that's an assistant to the floor leader that insists and gains support for their political party's bills. So they're called whips because they're supposed to whip the party into voting and supporting bills, and they're not actually whipping. They're actually strongly convincing other senators or representatives of their parties to vote for their bills. All because you're a representative or a senator from a political party doesn't mean you always have to agree or vote with that political party. But it's up to these whips to try to get everybody on board with the political party's stance. You can be a Republican and vote for to pass a Democratic bill. You don't have to vote exactly with your party, but it's a good look if you do to your party. So both houses and Senate have majority and minority whips. So there's a lot of committees and there's a lot going on with committees. But to simplify it, about 10,000 bills are introduced to Congress each year. And so a term of a Congress is 2 years. So every 2 years there's 10,000 bills. So to sort through these bills quickly, the Senate and the House organize these committees to go through these bills. And each committee is a group of senators or representatives that discuss and revise bills, and then they recommend these bills to be voted on in the Senate or the House. And then each committee has kind of a certain focus. So like the Homeland Security Committee, they discuss any bill that has to do with Homeland Security. It goes there first in that committee, and then it can be voted into the House or the Senate. So, committee members are usually selected based on seniority. So the most senior senators or representatives, they serve on very critical committees, such as the Armed Forces, Armed Service Committee, controlling bills about the United States military. That's very important. You'd want very experienced senators or representatives dealing in that matter. Sometimes committee members are selected because of their expertise on the subject matter. Like you would want a doctor sometimes a senator or representative has a medical background. They should be on a committee for health and safety bills. So there's standing committees. There's 20 permanent standing committees in the House of Representatives. These are always around. They always have members, such as agriculture, budget, foreign affairs, small businesses. Like these are things that are always. These are always committees that are around and have members in them. So committees also have members from Republican and Democratic parties. There's no committees that just have Republican members, and there's no committees that just have Democrat. It's a blending mix. Now, every committee has a chairperson, but that chairperson belongs to the majority party. And then you have these big committees, like you have these group of representatives, and then you have smaller committees called subcommittees that divide and work on bills that are even more specific of subjects. So the Committee of Energy and Natural Resources, big committee, a lot of bills come into it. They would have a subcommittee to decide on national parks bills and legislation. Then there's select committees. These are non-permanent committees that are formed to revise bills on very specific problems, and they're not permanent. Like, they conduct investigations, such as the impeachment of President Clinton. So President Clinton was impeached because he was caught lying to the American people, and so a select committee of senators and representatives were put together to put President Clinton on trial. And then there's joint committees. These are temporary committees that have both senators and representatives working together on issues on the same committee. This is also meant for a very specific purpose. It could be a variety of things, but it is not. These are only select and joint committees are only temporary and deal with very specific matters. And then there's a conference committee. And so if a bill is passed in one house but not the other, a conference committee will be established. So if the Senate passes a bill, the senators agree and stuff a bill, then the House of Representatives don't like it, then a conference committee will happen to, hey, can we hash this out between the House and Senate and make sure it passes in both houses. It's temporary, and it's just to get a certain bill to be passed. All right, this concludes Chapter 5, Section 2 about the organization of Congress.